We had a pair of LSU Tigers on display over the weekend at the Senior Bowl. How has their NFL draft stock potentially improved, declined? We'll get into that, plus so much more on today's edition of Locked on LSU.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, thank you for making Locked on LSU your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, we are on YouTube as well. So make sure to check out Locked on LSU. Hit that subscribe button, and you won't miss a single second of your Locked on LSU content. My name is Caroline Fenton. I'm your host, as I am every day. I graduated from LSU. I've been covering LSU sports since 2016, and I'm now a sports talk radio host in Nashville, Tennessee. Also, got to let y'all know before we get into the good stuff that today's edition of Locked on LSU is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your 2023 goals. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. So the Senior Bowl down in Mobile this past weekend, I wasn't able to go, but anybody that did go, hope you had a good time. Anybody that was following the coverage, appreciate a bunch of our friends and colleagues over at the Locked On Network who were down in Mobile, who were sharing some of their insight and have been following along to, LSU pundits and people who cover the team who were down in Mobile as well. So we had Gaye and Gaye and Ward both competing in Mobile, trying to boost that draft stock. This was Gaye on his experience in Mobile and playing in the Senior Bowl.
Playing in this game, man, it's been a blast all week. I've been having fun, practice amongst guys, from all around the country. So, getting coached by first-hand NFL coaches, it's been a great experience. And, all week I work hard, and, me and my D-line, we work hard. So coming out here, that was a team effort right there, That sack goes to the D-line, not just me, because we work for it. So, that just shows, what we can do.
So it sounds like Gaye had a great experience, and I don't doubt that in the slightest. I'm sure Gaye Ward had a very similar experience. I'm sure any player that was down in Mobile had a good experience. And I had the opportunity to go when I was in college and I was interning for a news station. I had a great time. You meet so many people, anyone who's anyone in college football or in the NFL, general managers, head coaches, they are all down in Mobile at some point throughout the week, watching practices, watching the game itself. So it really is a wonderful experience. So I believe while as a consumer, like from a consumer standpoint, from a viewer standpoint, as a college football fan or even an NFL fan or both, the Senior Bowl just doesn't really do it for me. And I think just the general public that the Senior Bowl isn't necessarily appointment watching. I don't really know if it ever has been, but that's not necessarily the point of the Senior Bowl. It's hearing guys like Gaye get those opportunities to get in front of college coaches, get the opportunity to get in front of some of these NFL GMs. And looking on the NFL side of it, this is the opportunity for GMs to look at, the more niche positions, maybe from smaller schools, be on full display against, 4-star, 5-star recruits that played at Power 5 programs. It's your opportunity to see a left guard from Fresno State go head to head. And I'm just making that up. I don't even know if there was a left guard from Fresno State at the Senior Bowl. Probably, maybe there was. Go head to head with a Will Anderson or some of the top pass rushers and defensive linemen in college football. It's valuable for players to get in front of GMs and coaches, and for GMs and coaches to get a good idea of where this class is at, really in the later rounds of the draft. In the first round and the second round, you kind of know where you're going, but when you're looking into you're looking at the bottom of the draft, second half of the draft, some of those more niche positions, you want to see those players on display. So that's really in kind of my spiel on the Senior Bowl is, if you're listening and you're thinking, who cares about the Senior Bowl? Maybe you as a football fan probably don't, and that's fine. I didn't watch it in its entirety. I would have loved to have gone, but it's really not the end all be all. But for coaches and players, this is the event, especially players who, aren't consensus first round, second round, maybe even third round players, and especially offensive linemen or, special teams players to be on full display. But looking at this past weekend, Allie Gaye and Jay Ward in the game itself, Allie Gaye had 1 sack against Fresno State quarterback Jake Haener. That has been, the general consensus coming out of Mobile over the past week. I've heard really none of these quarterbacks were really that great, Max Duggan included. A colleague of mine here in Nashville who is a college coach, a defensive coordinator, said, yeah, none of these guys are the guy. But that the Fresno State quarterback, and maybe that's why Fresno State was on the brain where I just randomly pulled that school out of my brain, that he was the best of the group, Max Duggan included. So sacked him for a 9-yard loss, set them up for a field goal. Field goal was no good. So Allie Gaye, making a big stop there. Jay Ward had 4 tackles in the game. He did get beat in coverage on the final touchdown of the game. But overall, my overall takeaways from what I've read, from Twitter updates that I've seen, from colleagues and people that I trust, and college football writers, NFL writers that I trust, has been that between those two, between Allie Gaye and Jay Ward, they've really done nothing but help themselves. That their draft stock has done nothing but improve. All of that being considered, both of them are considered second half of the draft guys. What I'm seeing as a consensus for Allie Gaye is he's probably a projected round 5 or 6. What I'm seeing for Jay Ward, the highest that I've seen for him is the 3rd round, but really kind of looking more so in the middle of the draft, in that 4th round, 5th round, 6th round area. But the combine's coming up at the end of the month. That week, February 28th to March 6th, I believe it is. They're only going to help their draft stock, and that's the idea at the combine. So we'll continue to get more from Allie Gaye and from Jay Ward, and of course from B.J. Ojulari and other members of LSU's football team who weren't participating either in the East-West Shrine Bowl or in the Senior Bowl. Will continue to get the temperature from some of the NFL draft gurus and from some of the national pundits out there of where they expect this group of NFLSU hopefuls, if you will. But from what I have heard, and I wasn't in Mobile, I didn't see the game in its entirety, I'll be completely honest with you, but that Allie Gaye and Jay Ward have only improved their draft stock. But coming up next, there is a really interesting article in The Athletic. And I think it shows a really tough reality, but just a reality of where we are in college football. And it might make you feel a little bit better about LSU, might make you feel a little bit worse about LSU. But my overall takeaway was LSU's not alone. And I'll explain what that means coming up next. Before we do that, I want to tell you about LinkedIn Jobs, because if you're a small business owner or if you're a hiring manager, you know how important success at the beginning of the year is for success for your business throughout the entire year. You want to get off on a good start. So that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs to find the right team members to surround yourself with to get that year started on the right note. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your goals. When I use LinkedIn Jobs, when the radio station that I work for needed a producer, the best part about it was I wasn't getting all of these candidates who maybe didn't have the right expertise or really any experience at all that we were looking for. So I didn't have to do all the filtering through the candidates myself. LinkedIn Jobs did that for me. They filtered through all of the people who were most qualified and brought those people in front of me. And they did a great job doing that because they go beyond resume data. They use insights from your job post, from your company, and from the 875 million member profiles to put your post in front of the most qualified candidates. So let LinkedIn Jobs do the hard work for you. It's super easy to screen and rate applicants based on your job qualifications, and it's all on one platform. So that's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockdowncollege. That is linkedin.com/lockdowncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Well, thanks again for making Locked On LSU your first listen every day. Make sure you check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Everything that you need to know about college basketball all in one place. And let me tell you, these guys are the best. They are experts. Plus, you can hear from big name experts, insiders, coaches, and players. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. So I was looking around The Athletic, I'm looking for, any off-season conversations, any off-season topics. If any of the national pundits or national talking heads were talking about LSU, and I stumbled across this article, and this was put out by Max Olson. It said, how many top quarterback recruits transfer? The staggering attrition of college football's most coveted players. So this was a study done by The Athletic, and it was only focusing on the years 2017 through 2020. And it said in that 4-year period, that 4-season period, that of the top 50 high school quarterbacks entering college football in that time, over 70% of those quarterbacks transferred at some point or another within their college football career. And those numbers, that rate, that trend goes even higher if those quarterbacks don't start in at least year 1 or year 2. 85% of the top 50 quarterbacks in that 4-season period have transferred if they don't start in year 1 or year 2. And I think one thing to consider here too is that was just until 2020. There have been massive changes in college football ever since 2020. Think about COVID, the COVID rule. Now, so many players have extra years of eligibility, which push incoming high school freshmen and young players even further on the depth chart, because now a player could be in college football for 6 or 7 years with red shirts and COVID years. So now that the incumbents are staying longer, then that means that the recruits, in theory, not always, but in theory, have to wait even longer. So that has made players even more impatient since this study was done. And this study was just done, but it was only between those 4 seasons. NIL is another factor within, since college football, since 2020, the changes in college football. So add NIL into the mix, because now NIL almost incentivizes transferring. If you can't get money, or if you're not getting as much money as you'd like one place, you transfer to another place. And now I think we might see that in other positions, not necessarily the quarterback position, considering how important playing time truly is, and how it's not really easy to get that playing time. You can't just chase the money without getting the playing time. But I still think that it absolutely plays a role, that it's a reality, and I don't blame any players for doing it, but it's a reality that there are players out there, quarterbacks included, that have chased the money. And I think the third thing as well, the third major difference that could add even more fuel to these astronomical figures that The Athletic has found, is the transfer rule, the one-time transfer rule that was enacted in 2021. So that one-time transfer rule came after this study that found that 70% of the top 50 quarterbacks have transferred at least one time within their college football careers. And then you enact the one-time transfer rule, which doesn't necessarily incentivize transferring, but what it does is not criminalize it in a way. Where in 2021, it was decided that if you want to transfer, that's fine. You don't have to sit out a year. You can transfer and you can become immediately eligible. So rather than incentivizing, it just says, hey, we are giving you a grace period that maybe the initial school that you committed to didn't work out, a coach left, an injury pushed you down the depth chart, you needed a fresh start, whatever it might be, of any of the reasons. So those are 3 massive changes in college football just since then. Think about how much higher that rate probably is just within the last couple of seasons, just within 2021 and 2022. So all of this to say, it could either make you feel better about LSU, understanding that LSU is not alone in Walker Howard's transfer. I think that a lot of people viewed Walker Howard's transferring out of LSU into Ole Miss as almost like a slap in the face, probably because of where he's going. I think a lot of people viewed as Walker Howard's transferring as maybe an ineptitude of the Brian Kelly regime, that there were so many fans, so many people looking at Brian Kelly and the coaching staff and saying, well, why couldn't you do more to keep him? Why wouldn't you start him? Why wouldn't you do whatever it takes to hold on to Walker Howard? Well, Walker Howard's not the first 5-star quarterback recruit to transfer away. It's not. It's the reality. 5-star quarterbacks don't start their first year. 5-star quarterbacks don't start as true freshmen. Arch Manning is the highest ranked quarterback recruit since Quinn Ewers, and before then it was Vince Young. So, and he's not starting in his first year. At least that's the understanding. Quinn Ewers didn't start in his first year. So let's not act like, Brian Kelly did some unmentionable thing in having Walker Howard sit a year. So I think that LSU fans at least should feel better about the fact that Walker Howard transferring away from LSU after year one, it's not a knock on LSU. It's simply a trend in college football that we're starting. It's either get the starting nod or leave. Get named the starting quarterback or transfer. That's just the reality of what we're looking at. Now, I think there might be a certain element of this that also might make LSU fans a little bit concerned. And that's about the quarterback room now and the quarterback room in the future. The numbers would show that Garrett Nussmeier is overwhelmingly, the trends would show that Garrett Nussmeier would probably transfer by now. That Garrett Nussmeier not being named the starting quarterback in year 3, I mean, the numbers show that there are very, very, very few quarterbacks who do stick around. And this point, this is a chart of the top 50 signees from 2017 to 2020. And in their freshman year, 43 of those quarterbacks, their freshman year, total, 27 of them transferred. As redshirt freshmen, only 12 stayed, 18 transferred. As sophomores, 5 total quarterbacks, 2 stayed, 3 transferred. Redshirt sophomore year, of those 20 quarterbacks in between those four seasons, half stayed, half transferred. Redshirt junior year, of the 5 quarterbacks of the top 50 quarterback signees in that 4-season period, only 1 stayed and 4 transferred. The trends show that if you aren't getting a nod in the first 2 years, you're out. I don't think that should be a reason of concern for Garrett Nussmeier, but I do think it's an uncomfortable trend that's not just facing LSU, but it's facing every single team in the country. While we always want to stack up talent and you always want to have backup options at the quarterback position, while you always want to have a quarterback in the mix, in the conversation, a quarterback in training, if you will, you always have a guy that's your scout team quarterback, that's the guy holding a clipboard and he's your guy of the future. I don't really know how long those days are going to be sticking around, because I don't really know how patient young quarterbacks truly are. I don't really know if the idea of a true freshman sitting and being okay with it in year 1 or even out on year 2, that's coming increasingly less and less likely. So I'm looking at all of these quarterbacks that LSU is collecting. And I usually say as a rule of thumb, you want to get a quarterback in every single recruiting cycle. That would make you feel comfortable. So you constantly have a rotation of guys coming in and out. But now, even when you do that, the likelihood of them staying and sticking around isn't very high. So I think it's just an interesting trend to look at in college football, and looking at it hyper specifically to LSU. Walker Howard transferring away was not a Brian Kelly problem. It was the coaching staff giving the best quarterback the number 1 opportunity. Walker Howard is simply just following a trend that we have seen with college quarterbacks all the way back to 2017. Walker Howard was doing what he had to do for himself, as so many other quarterbacks have done over the last 5 or 6 seasons. It's not a specific to LSU problem, and it's not a specific to LSU thing. It's just a college football thing. It's changing. Times are changing. We know that. And it's not just because of LSU. Then coming up next, another rough day. I'm getting kind of tired of talking about this, but another rough day on the hardwood. We'll get into what happened and what comes next and all of that coming up next. But before we do that, I want to tell you about Built Bar, because if you're looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all the fat, you don't want all the calories, then you have to try Built Bar. We've got through the holidays, so I know that my goal, and probably your goal too, is just to eat a little bit healthier, live a healthier lifestyle. But if you have a sweet tooth like me, then you know that you do not want to compromise taste. So you have to try Built Bar, because you get the best of both worlds. It's healthy and tasty. I mean, they're so delicious, you won't think that they're good for you. They're perfect for your New Year's resolution. And what makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. I mean, who wouldn't want a delicious treat that tastes like a candy bar that's also really good for you. I mean, it's the absolute best. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar, and there's only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. So you can indulge on your sweet tooth, but also stick to your diet and stick to your New Year's resolution of eating healthier. And now you don't have to wait around to get them. For years, we've been talking about how ordering your Built bars at Built.com, and you can still do that. But you can also go out and grab them at your local Walmart. If you go to the pharmacy section, grab yourself a box of Built bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream or double chocolate or coconut puffs. Or if you're close to Sam's Club, you can find them there. Run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. You can thank me later. Built Bar, that is Built.com. All right, another tough weekend, another tough day for the LSU Tigers, the men on the hardwood. A loss to Bama, 79-69. That's now the 10th loss in a row from Matt McMahon and this basketball team. And you know what? I might sound like a total loser when I say this. And I'll sometimes talk about this on the radio. I call it quote unquote loser talk. And it's basically like trying to find excuses for, an obvious ineptitude of a player or a coach or an organization. I say that's just loser talk. You're just trying to make excuses. So allow me to indulge in a little bit of loser talk here. I'll take it. You know what? I will take a 10-point loss to Alabama. That's just, I think, the reality that we are facing with this team. We all understood, at least I did, that this was going to be a tough year for LSU basketball. It's been less than a year since every single scholarship player left. It's been about a year since Will Wade got FBI wiretapped and fired. This team has been put through the absolute ringer. We knew this year was not going to be the year where LSU was going to make some miraculous tournament run. Would I take it? Hell yeah, I would. I didn't expect it, though. But I will take the improvement, which is total loser talk. But if you look at it, the last time LSU played Alabama, they got their butts absolutely whooped by 40 points. It was a 106-66 loss. That, I think, was really a come to Jesus moment, at least for me, maybe for you too, about this team. That hey, whoa, but it's really not that good. But a 10-point loss versus a 40-point loss, we'll rack it up to be improvement. Derek Fountain had a nice game. He had 26 points. That's a career high. 9 rebounds as well. Cam Hayes came off the bench, had himself a day, 15 points, 8 rebounds as well. And I'll look at even more improvement defensively. This has been an okay team defensively, but this defense held Brandon Miller, who's the leading scorer in the SEC. I think we can have a serious conversation about him being the first overall pick in this year's NBA draft. Held him to 11 points. He was 3 from 11 from the field. He had 11 points in a loss to Oklahoma. So, whenever you hold one of their leading scorers to that few points, you expect to win, or at least have it be a closer game. But he's averaging 19 points per game. And that number is only going up higher because it's not out of the ordinary if Brandon Miller scores 30 plus points in a game. That's just the kind of guy that he is. Last time that he played LSU, he had 31 points. So look, it's a loss, and it's 10 losses in a row, and that's bad. This team is at the bottom of the SEC. This team is really just trying to make it out of this season alive. But that's just the reality of where this team is, where we take a 10-point loss to a top 5 team in the country, and we say, you know what? It's not as bad as it was. And it doesn't mean that we should vilify Matt McMahon. I said that several times in the podcast, and I do want to reiterate that Matt McMahon's job is not in question, because we knew what he was getting into. We knew what we were getting into ourselves into this season. We knew not to expect too much. So I think Matt McMahon just deserves the gift of time. I think that's the fairest thing that we can do, is give him some time. This year's bad. It's really bad. I'll take the little breadcrumbs where I can get them of improvements week over week and game over game. And maybe this was the absolute best that this team could have played. And it still came up short against one of the top teams in the country. But they looked better than they did last time. And I know that's loser talk, but I'll take it. Because all I wanted from this season is to at least prove to me that you can build a foundation for this program to get not back where it was, but even higher than that. I wanted proof that this could be the beginning of a really long tenure of success with Matt McMahon at LSU. I haven't been convinced of that. I haven't seen the foundation being laid yet, but I have seen at least a minuscule amount of improvement. And I will take that where I can get it with a team that's on a 10-game losing streak that doesn't look like it's ending anytime soon. But that's going to do it for me today. Thank you for making Locked on LSU your first listen every day. And for your second listen, check out our brand new podcast, Locked on College Basketball. Experts Isaac Shade and Andy Patton bring you everything that you need to know on and off the court. Plus, you can hear from big-name experts, coaches, and players throughout the basketball landscape. Locked on College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.